Hey guys, Gatsby here. And there. Anyways, I was gonna wait until the end of this show to make this, but I decided halfway is a good point, so here's a retrospective of the first 30 episodes of Digimon Adventure 2020. Now, I could distill my opinions into about a video per episode, but I don't have the patience for that. First, an ad read for Raid Shadow Legends. Nope, I'm just kidding. My channel isn't big enough to be sponsored by such highbrow sponsors like some garbage mobile game that nobody plays or a set of headphones that are made by a guy who had sex with a Kardashian before they were abducted and replaced by extraterrestrials. If you want to help me, then share the video. This shit's probably going to take the most amount of work I've ever put into a single video. When this show was originally announced, I was super excited for it. A retelling of my favorite isekai with established characters and an ocean of deepest lore to boot. What could possibly go wrong? Things like the Royal Knights, Ex-Antibodies, Celestial Digimon, Legendary Warriors, hell, even sentient phone apps. There's so many options and directions that could take this show. I got caught up in the hype and came into this with an open mind, knowing that it's not going to be a shot-for-shot of adventure. I was genuinely excited that we could get some newer concepts and develop more of the stuff that we've had over the last 20 years with some fun character interactions. And wait a second, none of that is true, and I actually hate everything that isn't the original adventure. Dubbed, of course, because I'm not a troglodyte glue-sniffing smooth brainer. What's that? Butterfly's not even the opening song, and the entire soundtrack isn't just Smash Mouth and the Bare Naked Ladies.
It's been...
Well, this is just gonna be the worst thing that happened to Digimon since Frontier. Why would I want something new when I could just rewatch the original adventure? Whatever, I hope at least they don't touch Zero 2, because as far as I remember, when I watched the show at 7, it was the perfect sequel, and it aged just fine, and it doesn't need to be remade.
Please clap.
Gatsby, are you just gonna bitch about nothing, or are you finally gonna make a point? Shut up. And why is our war game the first 3 episodes of this show? As much as I'd love to say the reason this show sucks is because Omnimon is on episode 3, it doesn't give them enough credit. Why are they blowing their load this quickly on one of the most iconic OVAs of quintessential 90s core anime? If you watch Digimon, you know what this is. If you don't watch Digimon, you probably still know what this is. If your parents had a divorce because Angela Anaconda made it onto the silver screen, you probably made a very convincing shitpost, and you still know what our war game is. The real question is, why is this the first 3 episodes? And the answer is that in the year of our Omegamon 2021, animes churned out so quickly that nowadays the concept of the 3-episode rule exists. And for those of you who don't watch seasonal anime, let me explain. It basically means you get 3 episodes to wow me, otherwise,
I don't want to be in the sushi business, so I'm out.
To be fair, it doesn't always work out. In cases like Samurai Flamenco, it took about 7 episodes for someone to turn into a monkey with a guillotine for abs, well after everyone stopped watching, but it does work for shows like Release the Spice, where I only needed about 10 minutes to realize I didn't need to watch a show about cute anime girls licking each other. In the case of Digimon 2020, the decision was most likely to take the most easily recognizable plot lines of Digimon media in the last 20 years and put it on the front page. This wasn't a mistake. It's not my war game, but it's our war game. And it's meant to be a major hook to get viewers interested in the show, for better or for worse. And I think it worked out pretty decently. So what I'm saying is stop complaining about this, because yes, it's a problem, but no, it's not the main problem that's actively ruining the first half of the show for me. For the next 4 episodes, we get champion evolutions. It's in the same sequence as the original, which is pretty neat. And each episode services the plot a little bit. And by episode 5, we basically have the plot served to us on a silver platter. Sora finds Tai pretty quickly and is taking being in a world filled with dangerous monsters pretty well. Meanwhile, Izzy's stuck in an Applemon episode for a little bit while Mimi is being best girl. And Joe is being best character in the entire reboot. Each of these episodes is pretty fun and gives members a little bit of time to breathe and interact with each other before moving along. It's very familiar to anyone who has seen the original, except this time around, Izzy is constantly bitching about stuff that's happening in the real world. I guess this is an effort to raise the stakes that the gang is in, giving them a time limit before Japan goes dark or something. You know, because being in a world filled with deadly monsters wasn't pressing enough alongside the, main plot that was introduced in episode 5. You see that? That's actual criticism of the show. Where in the original, the kids were just focused on trying to survive the best they could and interact with Digimon they met along the way. The plot is way too busy, rushing everybody to try and create a sense of urgency that is ultimately very unnecessary. By episode 8 and 9, we actually get some comfy teamwork with the familiar face. Sure, by this point in the original, the kids meet Devimon and then he splits them up. In 2020, they split themselves up into 2 groups so they can reenact an episode of Dora the Explorer. But what follows is something extremely controversial. 10 through 15 have the kids getting their ultimate evolutions. No crest journey to find out how a symbol like this can mean honesty. Oh, wait, the Americans change it to reliability? I guess that works too. Standout episodes, though, are episode 12, where Mimi continues to not miss, and episode 15, where Joe and Zudomon have a pretty cool sequence about being reliable. But on the other end of this, 13 has Sora explaining that she loves bees, and what probably is the biggest loss so far is that we miss out on the iconic Skull Greymon episode, because Tai doesn't really need to push Greymon that hard to learn that having courage and throwing caution to the wind don't mean the same thing. I'm not saying this needs to be the exact same as the original, but it does feel kind of cheap. In the original, we get a little bit more characterization, and in this one, it kind of relies more on the audience already knowing how each of the kids is supposed to act, which in my opinion is kind of a bummer since I really love character interactions, and this is starting to feel a lot like Dragon Ball Super, in the sense that we're constantly fighting over and over and over. The whole Ultimate Evolutions was a huge point of contention for some, but I don't feel like that was that big of a sin either. Yeah, we basically got zero breathing room between the last batch of evolutions and these, but given the presence of Ultimate level Digimon, I'll allow it, because it allows for a wider variety of foes further down the line instead of regurgitating the same plots from the original. Case in point, my favorite episodes of the reboot so far are episodes 16 and 17. Originally, this video was just going to be about those two episodes. Then I got lazy and played Genshin Impact. The kids arrive in Tokyo and the first thing Mimi wants is a only to find out that the cashier machine broke. Today's foe is a slightly overpowered champion level Digimon, and even though they have access to ultimate level Digimon, this is still a very real threat because the other guy just has more data given the scenario. And honestly, I love it. The gang ends up digivolving with their new powers and blast the guy together, ending with Aizmon digivolving. Wait, ending with Aizmon digivolving? Well, that's a nice sequence and a good twist on the usual just digivolve already that we're accustomed to in shows like this. Episode 17 raises the stakes a bit more, showing that the real consequences that Izzy's been bitching about nonstop for the last several episodes are finally coming to a boil. Instead, they've managed to push through with a satisfying conclusion to the real-world problem in a 3-day blackout in Japan. No, wait, there's another episode? 18? And the guy digivolved again into Mega? Oh, that's weird, but I'm sure it'll be a banger, right? This is the line in the sand for me. This is the point where I realized I wasn't going to make the video that I thought I was originally going to make. This is the episode that is the culmination of everything I currently dislike in this show. It's not to say that there still aren't things I appreciate, but this is the definitive line in the sand where the show went sour for me. First off, this is the start of the Matt and Tai show, starring Matt and Tai. During this episode, the rest of the team is exhausted, which is reasonable given it's been fight after fight, but Tai and Matt, nah. These guys have been butt-chugging 5-hour energy drinks and have infinite stamina. It also doesn't help that the resolution of this fight sends the rest of the kids to the real world to deal with the B-plot in the background, where for 9 episodes they're trying to stop boats from... It doesn't even matter, it's all fluff, and they're gonna act like they're gonna do something important while the important stuff is handled by, yo, wait, is that fucking Omnimon? Yeah, that's right, Omnimon shows up again. I gave you the benefit of the doubt at the start of the show, but yeah, he's back now, and oh god, what's wrong with your face? Pause! I was gonna explain every little time some garbage animation happened from this point on, but I'd literally be recording this by the time the show finished. I'm not saying I'm an animator or I know how to animate well, but this is comparable to that one Berserk anime that looked like it was animated in MS Paint. My suggestion to you is to go watch a show from the start of 2020 called Keep Your Hands Off Aizoken, which is kind of a must-watch for anyone who enjoys or is interested in animation or anime in general, since it goes over a lot of ways that animators do what they do in the most effective way. Honestly, it'll change the way you watch anime. Last year, I watched Akira for the first time. I don't watch anime movies usually, sue me. But even in that movie, you can see a lot of strategies outlined in Aizoken in full use there, and it gives you a deeper appreciation for the animation. In the case of Digimon 2020, you get the opposite effect. Going back to Omnimon, I get that he's supposed to make the viewer more easily connect TK and Kairi to the main duo, but the whole sequence feels cheap and unearned. That's right, I said it. It's cheap and unearned, and I'm one of the stupid jackasses who stood up for Omnimon in episode 3. Take a step back. War Greymon and Metal Garurumon were mythical evolutions achieved through deepest lore, where the kids had to trust their siblings and each other in order to not die by getting shot by 2 hot angels Digimon to unlock a level of perfection that hasn't yet been seen in the show. In Omnimon's case, it's a combination debut from our war game made of the combined hopes and aspirations of kids watching 3 mega-level Digimon duke it out in order for Japan not to get number 3. What's 2020 Omnimon, though? Well, they couldn't fight Nidhoggmon without it. it. Oh, how hard would it have been to end this mini arc with Orochimon? Even if they still wanted Nidhoggmon, the writers can always write a situation that doesn't require the get-out-of-jail-free card every single time shit goes too far sideways. Even if that is what Digivolving usually is anyways. And why does he look like this? I get that usually the first few episodes and the last few episodes of the show get the animation budget, but this is the climax of 18 episodes of build-up, and this is the best we've got. There's so much more I have to say. I've got 12 more episodes, but this is my absolute rock bottom. This is it. So what's next? Leomon finally shows up so people can start casting Lost to see how long it takes for him to be killed off. At this point, someone else mentioned something I hadn't really noticed yet. We haven't really got nearly as many sentient Digimon walking around having conversations with the cast like we did in the original. Sure, we had Ogremon and the Bees and the Pants guy from Frontier and some of the Holy Digimon stuff, but stuff in this world really is just here to kill them. In some small ways, though, it does work for 2020. It makes it feel more like a digital wasteland of threats, but by this point, you would think we'd have more memorable extended cast members. Alright, also TK finally shows up after 20 episodes, except half his lines are Oni-chan. Yeah, you thought I forgot about TK. Nope. Well, he was in the ED cards from episode like 14, so 6 episodes later he finally shows up, but yeah. Speaking of the ED cards, I don't actually think I've said this yet, but yeah, all of the outros are absolute bangers. The episode he appears in gives us some more cool references with parallels from Tamers, and we get a cool sequence where they beat up Koji's edgy brother bird form, and Angemon becomes an egg again because you remember when that happened in the original, right? I bet you do. Not really the same context, and it's a little less impactful than the original since TK has had like 2 minutes of screen time with the guy, but honestly the episode's not too bad. Continuing with 21 and 22, you get the main characters having new toys, which in all seriousness I was mortified seeing the "see you next week," expecting to see them just shit all over the War Greymon sequence. Instead we get a new arm, and then the following week, War Garurumon gets the most versatile funnels Gundam can buy. And again, I actually like these upgrades. I thought War Garurumon's funnels were really cool, and they reminded me of Last Evolution, which was a nice change in pace because for once I could think about Digimon media I actually enjoyed watching. On what's possibly my second most hated episode of this, we have another prime example of exactly how little animation you can get away with to call this slideshow of wide pans in anime. This episode makes me wonder if they should have just kept the show on hiatus. If I were to compare this to anything, it'd be like the Pokemon Stadium games where you get shot, reverse shot, followed by some weird after effect appearing on the screen. It's pretty embarrassing considering it's Devimon. You'd think they'd want to show him a little bit more love. Instead we get mostly static shots and then a pretty nice evolution sequence, but he really doesn't do anything. But hey, I mean, at least his voice was pretty awesome. 24 makes up for it a bit though, and there's a lot to like here, and I like to think that this kind of brought a little bit more interest back into the show for me. I haven't really mentioned it yet either, but I also think it's really cool that their kids ride around on the Digimon, but it's really hard to believe they'd survive shit like this when early on in episode like 15, Sora nearly died from having a cold leg. I know I wasn't the only one bummed about the lack of a Skull Greymon episode, but instead we get a Machinedramon episode, which is really cool given that it was foreshadowed during the Metal Greymon evolution sequence showing a Machinedramon outline. It was even kind of wholesome. Agumon manages to calm his mind with the help of Angemon to save Tai a la tasteful teasing of War Greymon, even if we didn't get the wrong evolution for the selfish reasons leading into character development. This was still a really cool episode though, all in all. Anyway, nothing really happens until Kairi shows up with the rest of the kids who are brought back into the main plot to fight something, and then War Greymon happens again with even less payoff than the second Omnimon appearance. Then Kairi gets whisked away by the bad guy because it's too hard to write stuff for this character and something's calling to her. Finally 29, where I was slightly invested again with the trees and the rival of Lopmon. I thought they were gonna say screw it and just press the War Greymon button again, but this time Sora shows up and saves Tai. What a twist! It's pretty cool to see some teamwork, and oh wait, never mind, they're doing War Greymon anyway. Yep, 5 minutes into 30 and Tai tells Sora to go away so he can soak up enough screen time to digivolve into Mega. The sequence that follows is a bit strange. We get Parrotmon, which is really cool because everyone remembers Parrotmon. You remember Parrotmon, but then he evolves into Crestmon, who looks like this, while War Greymon looks like this, and hot damn, the evolution sequences have never looked this good. There's so many small details. It's like they outsourced them to a completely different studio, but yeah, it's a lot less impactful than the original, given this time around War Greymon is just here to beat up a golden saint and burn some trees. Anyways, why is he so huge? But yeah, that's it. In the first half, I'd say it was pretty average. In 5 episodes, we get lore stuff regarding Holy Digimon, the main cast being incarnations of the previous digital warriors, our war game, and some pretty cool character interactions, although pretty minimal. Once we get into the full swing of things past 18, we start seeing the cracks. Izzy is too busy reading plot points off his laptop, which was the whole purpose of his Ultimate Evolution episode. Matt and Ty soak up most of the time while everyone else goes away for what feels like half of the episodes, and at this time, it kind of feels like a New Game Plus run of the digital world, which coincidentally also minorly takes away from the kids' contributions in what could have been a better paced set of episodes. There's a reason I can tell you exactly what happened in episodes 16 and 17, and I couldn't even be bothered to Google anything that happened after episode 24. There's some good things here and there, but I'm going to end it here since this is the halfway point, and I'll very likely make a second half video with an overall review once the show ends. Who knows, I might even make another scripted video like this on another anime or even a toku show. Final little note, thanks for watching. I thought I was being bitter or nitpicky after writing this script, but my beliefs were reaffirmed through Billiam's podcast, where he talks about Digimon 2020 with some newcomers. I'd suggest checking out 26 to 30, episode link in the description. And yeah, it was just really great to hear from another group of people with varying experiences with Digimon who also raised similar concerns.